For 14 years, Lorne Greene was America's father. As Ben Cartwright, he was the wealthy, wise, and unshakable patriarch of the Ponderosa. Bonanza wasn't just a show, it was a weekly lesson in morality. But the perfect family you saw on screen was a complete lie. Behind the scenes, the set was toxic. The Cartwright brothers were at each other's throats, and at the center of the storm was Lorne Greene himself. His co-stars saw him as a cold, controlling dictator, a man obsessed with money and power. They fought him for years, but they never knew the truth. They had no idea who he really was. And they certainly didn't know that while he was fighting them on set, he was secretly giving away millions of his Bonanza fortune, all to pay for a secret sin that haunted him his entire life. The trouble started almost immediately. Bonneau Roberts, the actor who played the eldest son, Adam, absolutely despised the show. He was a serious stage actor and felt Bonanza was beneath him, calling the script stupid and trashy. He hated Lorne Greene the most. Roberts saw Greene as a jingle for Chevrolet, the show's sponsor, a man who had sold his soul for a paycheck. The arguments became legendary. They would yell so loud producers had to step in. It got so bad that crew members eventually had to physically pull Greene and Roberts apart. Roberts finally quit in 1965, and the cast was so relieved they supposedly joked about taking a leaf out of the dining table and splitting the money. But the fights didn't stop. A new, quiet war began, this time with Michael Landon. Landon, who played Little Joe, wanted to direct and write. He pushed for more love stories and drama to appeal to younger fans. Greene hated it. He called it trashy distraction and fought to keep the show's moral center. The set was split, a battleground of two different visions. The cast saw Greene as a stubborn old man, a dictator he refused to change. But what they saw as ego was really something else. It was fear, born from a past he never, ever spoke about. Lorne Greene wasn't born Ben Cartwright. He was born Lyon Hyman Greene on February 12, 1915 in Ottawa, Canada. He wasn't the son of a timber baron. He was the son of penniless Russian Jewish immigrants who had fled violent attacks in their homeland. His father, Daniel, ran a tiny shoe repair shop, making just $8 a week. The entire family of 6, including grandparents who spoke no English, was squeezed into a tiny 2-room apartment. There were no grand bedrooms. Lorne slept on a bed made from old flour sacks stuffed with newspaper. His mother Dora worked 14 hours a day in a factory, and at night she would bring home torn newspapers she found in the trash of rich neighborhoods. She used those scraps to teach her son how to read, believing education was the only way he could escape their crushing poverty. From his first breath, Lyon Greene knew only one thing: scarcity. He was terrified of debt and failure, a fear that would define every decision he ever made. But that fear was about to get a whole lot worse. On March 15, 1922, when Lorne was just 7 years old, his life changed forever. At 2:47 in the afternoon, his father's tiny cobbler shop caught fire. Faulty wiring sparked, and the fumes from the shoe polish set the entire place ablaze. Daniel Greene barely made it out alive, his hands badly burned trying to save his tools. The fire destroyed $400 worth of equipment, everything they had. In today's money, that's about $6,000. It doesn't sound like a fortune, but they had no insurance. Worse, they still owed $200 in rent. The loss was total. The family was evicted immediately. With nowhere to go, they ended up living in the dark, damp basement of the Hebrew Benevolent Society, crammed in with 12 other families. 7-year-old Lawrence slept on an old army cot, plagued by nightmares of fire and screaming. That fire left a permanent scar. He grew up obsessed with financial security, vowing to never, ever be that powerless again. That obsession is what drove him to Hollywood, and is what made him fight so hard for Bonanza's success. But there was another secret, one even darker than the fire.
Before he was an actor, Lorne Greene found success with his voice. It was deep, powerful, and commanded authority. He became a radio broadcaster, and by 1939, he was the chief news announcer for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC. He was the most trusted voice in Canada. But then, the war began. As World War II raged, Greene's job changed. He was no longer just reading headlines. He was delivering casualty reports. Night after night, his calm, serious voice boomed across the country, reading the long, devastating lists of soldiers who had died overseas. He He was the man who told families their sons, brothers, and fathers were never coming home. His voice, once a symbol of comfort, became a symbol of death. People began to call him the voice of doom. Families would freeze in terror when he came on the air, too afraid to listen, too afraid to turn it off. The experience shattered him. He later admitted those broadcasts gave him nightmares for years. He was the sound of heartbreak. It was a guilt he would carry with him for the rest of his life. Now, his on-set battles make sense. In 1959, Bonanza premiered. It was a disaster. The show was ranked a miserable number 45 and was bleeding money. It was about to be canceled. After just 16 episodes, Lorne Greene, the man terrified of failure, did the unthinkable. He threatened to quit. He stormed into the producer's office and told them the show was failing because his character, Ben Cartwright, was too cold, too fake. He wasn't just a boss, he was a one-dimensional patriarch who solved every problem with a threat. This wasn't just an actor's complaint, it was a moral stand. In a later meeting, Greene famously asked the producer, "Why are we always pointing a gun at someone?" He demanded the scripts be rewritten. He said the Cartwrights should offer kindness before violence. This was the voice of doom speaking. Haunted by the death he had broadcast, he was now desperately trying to create the opposite, a fantasy world where a strong father figure solved problems with wisdom, not violence. The producers listened. They rewrote Ben Cartwright, and 2 years later, Bonanza hit number 2. Greene had saved the show by turning it into his personal atonement. As Bonanza exploded in popularity, Lorne Greene became a very rich man. By 1961, he was earning $10,000 per episode, a fortune at the time. His co-stars saw the money, the fame, and the tough dictator who controlled the set. What they didn't see was what he was doing with his paychecks. As soon as the money came in, Lorne Greene quietly began giving 20% of his entire Bonanza salary away. That's $2,000 from every single episode. And he wasn't donating to a Hollywood charity. He was sending it all to Canadian war orphans. The voice of doom was secretly using his new fortune to take care of the children of men just like the ones whose names he'd been forced to read on the radio. He told no one, not the cast, not the press. It was a completely private act. The only reason we know about it is because the IRS eventually found out during a tax audit in the 1970s. By the time Bonanza ended, Lorne Greene had secretly donated over $400,000. In today's money, that's nearly $2.8 million. And that wasn't even his biggest giveaway. In 1964, at the height of Bonanza's fame, Lorne Greene recorded a spoken word song called Ringo. It was a narrative ballad about a famous Western outlaw. It had nothing to do with the Beatles. But in a strange fluke, young buyers thought it was about Ringo Starr and bought it in droves. The song was a runaway smash, shocking everyone by hitting number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a massive, unexpected windfall. Greene earned an estimated $500,000 in royalties from that one song alone. That's the equivalent of $3.3 million today. He could have bought mansions, yachts, anything. Instead, he gave every single cent of it away. He donated the entire $3.3 million fortune to anti-nuclear causes. Think about that. The voice of doom, the man haunted by broadcasting the horrors of one war, took his entire song fortune and used it to fight the ultimate doom, nuclear weapons. While his castmates saw him as a sellout obsessed with money, Lorne Greene was secretly one of the biggest philanthropists in Hollywood, giving away a combined total of over $6 million in today's currency. The end of Bonanza was not a happy one. In 1972, Dan Blocker, the beloved actor who played Haas, died suddenly. The set was devastated. For Lorne Greene, it was the end. He later told the Toronto Star that the soul of the show was gone and that it should have ended 6 seasons earlier. NBC tried to plug the hole with new characters, but the magic was gone. The network canceled the show abruptly in 1973. Greene said they were told on a Monday that the show would be canceled on Wednesday. After 431 episodes, there was no proper goodbye, no farewell. It just stopped. Greene was heartbroken. In the 1980s, there was talk of a reunion movie. Lorne Greene was set to star in Bonanza: The Next Generation, He was excited to return to the Ponderosa one last time. But on September 11th, 1987, just weeks before filming was scheduled to begin, Lorne Greene passed away at the age of 72. Around 500 people came to his funeral. In the pews, sitting together for the last time, were Michael Landon and Pernell Roberts. The men who had fought him for decades came to say goodbye, still likely unaware of the real man they had worked with. They saw Ben Cartwright, the tough-as-nails boss. They never knew Lorne Greene, the boy from the fire, the man haunted by war, who had spent his entire life and his secret fortune just trying to make it right.